What's up, everybody? Welcome to Cinema Royale. We are the Punch Drunk Critics. I'm John Nolan. That guy over there, that handsome fellow, is Travis Hobson.
And Travis Hobson. What's up, everybody?
We missed you guys. We haven't seen you in a couple weeks.
It hasn't been that long. We did a week and a half last week or whatever.
Week before last, and then now we're recording on Tuesday. So technically, it's been almost a week and a half.
Yeah, but we're not too far behind here. We're a couple days behind.
I just want everybody to know that
actually at this point, it's not even behind anymore. It just kind of is what it is.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show, everyone. This week we're going to be talking about The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, the latest in the Conjuring universe, the third in the core Conjuring flicks, with Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson. God, they're perfect as Ed and Lorraine Warren. We're talking about that. We're going to talk about the first couple episodes of Loki, which debut tomorrow, Wednesday. We got a chance to look at those. My review of that is up on punchdrunkcritics.com, actually. But we're going to talk about it here, too. And then we got a whole bunch of news and stuff as well that we're going to talk about. Into the Spider-Verse and John Wick 4, a whole bunch of stuff that we're going to get into. And what I hope will be a shortened episode, but every time I say that, it never actually pans out. So who knows? I got a screening to get to, so and a whole lot of shit to do.
Yeah.
Before I go.
So we'll get right to it, because if you've watched this show at all, you know that I'm more of the horror guy. But Travis, you don't shy from horror. So what? We heard you already say that Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson. Patrick. What? Wasn't that Putty from Seinfeld? Wasn't his name Patrick Wilson too?
That's Patrick Warburton.
Ah, okay. Well, Putty's not in this movie. Patrick Wilson, who everybody knows from the most awkward sex scene in any movie, in The Watchmen. They play Ed and Lorraine Warren, infamous.
A little bit of both.
Yeah,
I guess infamous kind of encapsulates that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're famous for something that brings you infamy.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
And it's funny to me that they've been the subject of these movies, as good as they are, because, these are basically people that were outed completely as frauds. I think at one point they even admitted to it. They got their hooks in the game in the 70s with the Amityville house as their launching off point. Now we've seen from them, we've got Annabelle, creepy doll. We've got the Conjuring universe. We've got the Nun was one of theirs, yeah. Just this whole...
The Nun is in that universe. These aren't... I don't think these are all... I don't know if, the Nun is based on a real life...
Oh, no, I think it's just the Conjuring ones are based on the files of Ed and Lorraine Warren, but... Yeah,
Annabelle, they did have an Annabelle doll. That's true. But, I don't think the stories that have spun out of that are...
It's true that the doll existed.
But yeah, this is the Conjuring universe, man, is 8 movies deep, so...
Yeah, but...
This is a huge success. This is the first one not directed by James Wan, though, and it's directed by Michael Chavis, who did The Curse of La Llorona a couple years ago, which was the Latin-themed horror that has this really thin tie into the Conjuring movies. And now Warner Brothers is basically saying, well, that was not really a Conjuring movie. They're kind of disavowing that.
Taking a step back on that claim.
because it didn't have the best reviews
right.
in the world.
But, so, for the fact that it's a universe of movies based on 2 people that are obvious frauds and you're putting on a show, I can't fault how good the Conjuring movies are. They've always been, up to this point, I think Conjuring and Insidious is the only other one that really got under my skin and really made me think twice when I went to bed at night. There's something about their stories, Ed and Lorraine Warren. This one opens up... The hook on this one is that it's based on a story from their files that is the only time in U.S. history that somebody claimed demonic possession for a murder defense.
First time.
Yep. Oh, did I say only time?
Yeah, first time.
I'm sorry, I just assumed that after the first time it wouldn't keep happening, but yeah, so first time
it wasn't exactly unsuccessful, so...
Yeah, but... yeah, fair enough. And it's the whole thing starts. The journey starts with them trying to save the tormented and possessed soul of a child, which is always terrifying to me. I think I've said on here before. Growing up, I grew up Catholic, and I was even like an altar boy and stuff. So The Exorcist really was the pinnacle of how scared you could feel. And there's some bit of that that's just left over in me. That it's like whenever it comes to the possession stuff and demons, it just freaks me the hell out. And
it's well known that children don't really have souls anyway. You don't actually get a soul until you reach the age of 18.
unless you're a ginger.
Unless you're ginger. Yeah.
But
So,
I think the thing that I really liked about this is that, unless I'm remembering correctly, this is the first time I saw that Ed and Lorraine Warren were actually rattled and like seemed that they were in over their heads a little bit and seemed like that they didn't have control of the situation. Because that's the thing about the other movies in the Conjuring universe, or at least where they're featured, that always kind of took me out of it a little bit. It's like you have your big brother and big sister walking you through, because no matter what's going on, they're always pretty in control. And I felt like in this you could really kind of feel them losing that control.
I think. Well, I think that the difference is because I think each movie has a scene or two where the Warrens seem like they might be overmatched by whatever it is, whatever demon it is they're going against that is crazy powerful. There's always like one or two scenes where that happens. But I think the difference is in this one is there's an added dimension to it. This movie isn't like the first two, like the first two. It's different because the real life component involves the law.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little bit more of a crime procedural than the other ones were. But also there's an added burden on the Warrens. Like the thing that stands out about them, there's a few things that stand out about them. I love them as a duo. I call them the Ozzy and Harriet of paranormal investigators. That's kind of what they are.
Yeah.
But the things that stand out about them is their faith in one another, their faith, period, and their unshakable certainty that all this stuff is real. Like everything that they're doing is real and legitimate. But in the first two movies, you could always, the Warrens could always just count on being able to convince whoever it is that they're trying to save or their family, and that was all they needed to do. But there's an added burden here. They have to convince the law. They can't just settle on that. That's a given. That part's a given that they get it, that they understand it, they think it's real.
But the burden of proof actually being there.
They have to do even more than that. They have to convince the jury. They have to convince the law that that not only was this person possessed by a demon, but that it's because of this demon that he went and committed these acts.
Right.
Like, you could have one and not necessarily have the other.
Yeah.
He could be like just a terrible person who did this thing. So there's a lot of added stuff here. But also this movie has the Warrens. We kind of get to see, because they're going up against paranormal threats all the time. But this one kind of shows their human frailty, like their weaknesses as humans. But along with the weaknesses as humans, they also comes with a certain strength, and that strength comes from them loving each other. And if this is going to be the last of the Conjuring movies, and it might, I don't know, I really don't. I think this one does an extraordinary job of getting to the reason that we love the Warrens, and it is the love that they have for one another that pulls them through all this stuff. Like without the one or the other, they could not get through any of it. Like she couldn't get through this without him, he couldn't get through this without her.
Right.
And this movie does a really good job of showing that part of them. And that's the reason why I like it. Do I think it's necessarily the best of the movies? I don't actually. I think it's probably second or third, maybe even third.
Mm-hmm.
The best. Mainly because James Wan is such an extraordinary director at creating tension. I don't think this one necessarily has that compared to the other ones. It's not particularly scary. I didn't feel particularly anxious about it the way I do the first two movies. And it's shot pretty generically for the most part, I think. But the Warrens, man, the Warrens stand tall in all of them, and they do in this one too.
They do. I mean, it's that's I think that's what makes these special, and the Conjuring movies themselves more impactful and stand the test of time better than Annabelle. I mean, because you think about Annabelle, and it's got they had what, two sequels on that, a sequel on that. So
Although Annabelle has made the most money out of all.
yeah, I mean, if that's the thing. That's the trade off. Is like you have a demonic doll, which is always going to bring people in the door, but these movies will stick with you more than that will because of Ed and Lorraine Warren, and they're showing their faith in well, faith in their religion throughout as the armor that protects them. But what makes them special is exactly what you're saying. It's their faith in each other more than anything else. Um, the fact that they not only got these two, but got them to come back for sequel after sequel, is what I really question, because like Vera Farmiga is just, if not an A-list actress, on the cusp of A-list actress, and talent-wise, you'd have to call her an A-list actress. She's been in Oscar-nominated films, and unless that money truck is backing up with a huge load, which it might be, um, it's interesting that she keeps coming back for these sequels, and it's good because that's exactly what you're coming back for. That's what makes it special. That, and because they know how to foster their own little universe. The Easter eggs that are sprinkled through are getting more. You see a painting of Valak at the end. There's a whole, the artifact room that you saw in the last movie you get to see again, and there's other things in there that will
It's funny. It's funny how since Annabelle became so popular, all of the movies will sprinkle in a mention of Annabelle. Like, this one has a really, it's like you always get a look at Annabelle and Artifact Room now.
Mm-hmm.
This one has a really great mention of Annabelle. And they were talking to the lawyer, and she was like, how are you gonna convince a jury when you can't even convince me?" And they're like, come on over for dinner. We'll introduce you to Annabelle.
Right. Yeah.
And now Annabelle is just like this threat. Like, it's like Annabelle's like, oh, you need convincing? Here's Annabelle.
Yeah.
What do they do? Like, I want a spin-off or a short where they show us what did they do when they took her to see Annabelle. They like let Annabelle out.
Yeah.
What did they do?
Did they put Annabelle in a little cage and just like a?
It would be wildly irresponsible.
Yeah, like you would with a rabid dog or something, and just leave her there.
But what else could they have done? I mean, what else could
nothing. That's all that you could have done. And that's the whole point. At least I thought of them always showing her is there. I would rather see a muscle bound madman with a machete sitting on a chair than I would seeing Annabelle if I walked into a room. Because there's something about just that little doll standing there, and it's so innocuous, and it has the feeling of threat that overwhelms you.
A movie that just if they did a movie that introduces us to whatever story is behind all those artifacts in there. That's what I want. Like, I want to see a movie about those nutcrackers that are on the shelf.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see the story about the toy monkey. I want to see a story. I want to see a movie about all the stuff that's in there.
Yeah, like an anthology covering the rest of it.
Yeah.
If it keeps making money like it's doing, then we probably will eventually see all those things in a movie. I'm sure.
The thing is, these movies don't cost a ton of money. I mean,
it's the Blumhouse strategy. Make it cheap. You don't have to make as much money in the box office.
Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga are the draws for this, and of course the Conjuring name at this point. Like I said, from the entire universe of movies. So.
Right.
But I think this one is a solid Conjuring film. It's not the best, I don't think, but I mean, like I said, if this is the end, I think it goes out on a pretty high note.
Yeah. And I would be, maybe it might be the end for Ed and Lorraine Warren, but I seriously doubt it'll be the end of the Conjuring universe. We'll see plenty more of that.
Yeah, I mean, the Warrens are dead now, I believe. I think Lorraine Warren died a few years ago. Between the last movie and this one, possibly. So I don't know how far they'll continue on without them around either, because I know she's a consultant on these two. So I don't know. We'll see.
Right.
The universe isn't going anywhere, I don't think. So, and I'm pretty sure Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson will do these things as long as they keep making them.
Right.
For both of them, these are probably their most memorable characters, and every actor likes to have that character that they're associated with.
Mm-hmm.
closely, and they seem to have always loved making these movies. So, yeah.
Yep. And the last thing about it, I am without. You know what? I probably shouldn't even say anything because it might be spoilery. I was going to talk about the difference between the movie and the case in real life, and what happened there. Well, just in the real life case, he was there was a conviction and there was a 20-year sentence. So I don't know how effective the defense would be, just for anybody watching out there if you're planning on using that.
Well, it saved him from the death penalty, which
Yeah.
is what I think, which is what the main thing was. I don't think any of them thought they were going to get him off.
Right.
They wanted to stop him from being killed.
Yeah.
So in that regard, it was a success.
I guess that's true. Even they wouldn't assume, even if they believe, they're gonna know not everybody else is gonna believe. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of the angle the movie took with it too. It's like he died, so it's all right.
Yeah. So from the Conjuring universe to a much happier universe, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Loki is the last of the first three, the big shows that were coming our way: WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and now Loki. And just like every other series to this point, tons of rumors about this one connecting to Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. What was your take on Loki? Or were you looking forward to it? Like, in
I
very
was looking
phrase.
forward to it the way I was looking forward to WandaVision or Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Right.
Loki is not my favorite Marvel MCU character.
Mm-hmm.
Not my favorite character in the Marvel comics either. I like Tom Hiddleston's version of Loki though. But was I looking forward to the series? Not really.
Mm-hmm.
Was I still kind of excited to see it when it came in my inbox? Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And I don't know, my impressions. I'm still figuring out my impressions. This is the reason why I hate reviewing like 2 episodes of a show because I don't quite know. But what I'll say about it is this: unlike WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Loki knows where it's going right from the start. It feels like it picks up really quickly, and I know where it's going right from the start, which I did not know about WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier, which I thought both started off pretty slow.
Mm-hmm.
Loki, I didn't feel that. They throw you right into the TVA, the Time Varying Authority. Loki's in there, and he's got this great chemistry with Owen Wilson as Mobius, Agent Mobius.
Powerless down there.
Yeah, pretty much. And they're basically charged with stopping people just like Loki from fucking up the time stream. And basically, that's their entire job. But there is somebody else who's a much greater threat, and Loki is probably best suited to capture him, and I won't say why. And so he's tasked with joining them to do it. And of course, he doesn't want to do it. But one of the interesting things I thought about this, besides the buddy comedy aspect to it, which, they seem to already be doing in a way that might be better than they did with Falcon and Bucky. Well, maybe it's because of Owen Wilson, who spent years doing nothing but.
Yeah, he's the ultimate buddy cop, buddy sidekick duo person.
He hasn't been able to do one of those in like 10 years.
Wow, yeah.
At least. And now he's back doing one with Tom Hiddleston's Loki, and it's interesting.
Yeah.
But one of the things I thought was really cool about it is the way it breaks down Loki so easily. Mm-hmm. Like, it goes all the way back to the beginning for him. Mm-hmm. And we got to remember that Loki is like the one villain who's been there in the MCU from the beginning. Like, he's been there from the start.
Yep. Literally the first.
All the other villains have kind of disappeared, and he's still there. Mm-hmm. And this movie breaks him down and gets deep into who he is. There's just great conversation between him and Mobius, where he just kind of asks him about his glorious purpose that he's always talking about and all this kind of stuff, and the violence that he's committed against people, and why are you doing that? And shows him, like, what's been the what has come out of all this, and what's your success rate really been for all this stuff. And, and it kind of gets to Loki. And I thought that was interesting to see him kind of turn that way. Now maybe it's because this is a variant version of Loki. I don't know, but whatever it is, it worked and it made sense, and it made me kind of give a shit about the character and what he's going to do for the rest of these episodes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, this was my least anticipated of the three, but at the same time, least anticipated of an MCU show is still pretty damn anticipated.
Right.
You know, I like Loki a lot in small doses. I think Ragnarok level Loki, like that much Loki sprinkled in, is perfect. I was worried about how he'd carry a whole show, and like you mentioned at the beginning of your discussion on it, it's you can't measure these shows until you've seen the whole season. I mean, imagine talking about what you thought of WandaVision as a whole after seeing the first 3 episodes.
My initial review of WandaVision after the first, what was it, first 3 or 4 episodes they sent us, I was like, it's all right.
Yeah, and who wouldn't say that at that point?
And then the very next, and then it was the very last episode, where it was like the last of the group that they sent us, where I was like, oh,
this is why it all makes sense now. Yeah,
right. So I hate having that stuff happen. I hate reviewing like the first couple episodes. I want to review the whole thing.
Yeah, but I am concerned about one thing, and maybe hell, they may have already kind of answered this, but the people behind the TVA are they're gods, basically known as timekeepers, and it introduces this really weird opportunity at either A, making everybody's sacrifices and wins and battles that much less impressive, or B, striking huge holes in continuity, which we all know how comic book geeks love their continuity, because the whole point of the TVA is to prevent nexuses or disruptions in predetermined timelines that the timekeepers have already figured out. So
their job is to protect the sacred timeline. Right.
So if it's already predetermined, then Doctor Strange saying just one chance isn't that awesome, because that one chance was all they were going to get to.
I don't necessarily say. I think they do a pretty good job of clarifying how time works.
I kind of went cross-eyed in that part, so I was thinking I may have misunderstood. But
I don't know if that's true. If you misunderstood it or not, because there is one thing that I'm still confused about. Like I get what their description of it is. That's what I mean when I say they've clarified it with their how they're describing time. But I don't know how it jibes with what we saw in Endgame. I don't know how it jibes with, remember, the Ancient One's explanation to Hulk?
Right, yeah.
These divergent paths that could happen. It doesn't seem like it jibes with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I really don't know. I don't know if I understand this as plainly as I think I do.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We'll see. As far as the predetermined outcomes and stuff like that. If you want to look at it on that kind of broad, universal level, I guess it kind of sucks. But in the moment, you're not going to think about that.
Yeah, so. While you're this is stuff this is the classic kind of stuff that comic book geeks talk about in comic book shops afterwards when they're overanalyzing everything. But the other thing that struck me in this, and I don't think people are giving enough credence to that this isn't the Loki. This is Loki before any character, emotional or any development at all that we've gotten all throughout the MCU. This is happening right after Thor, right at the end of the Avengers is when we catch this Loki. So all the stuff that made him grow as a character that we saw up until his death in Infinity War hasn't happened yet. So I think one of the cooler things that I'm waiting for is seeing that character development, that emotional maturity that happen in this compressed timeline, because you already see bits of it, like you mentioned, his great legacy and all this kind of stuff. And we've seen shots throughout the series, the Loki for President shots, him as DB Cooper, all this different stuff that's going to be coming.
I wish you had the DB Cooper thing.
What's that?
I wish you had given away the DB Cooper thing.
It was in the trailer.
Did they say he was DB Cooper in the trailer?
He jumped out of an airplane holding a suitcase with glasses on. That's who else would it be? Maybe not. Maybe I don't know. But rewind and don't listen to that. Go get the TVA to come back and stop me from saying that. But I think it's going to be really interesting seeing if the Loki we get at the end of this season is the same Loki that we left in Infinity War, or if this change in his path causes him to be a totally different person, because he's not going to get the time with his brother. He's not going to get all these things that made him who he was. Because Loki was just kind of annoying by the end of Avengers. He didn't really grow on everybody until, really Ragnarok. But people liked him before that, I suppose.
Yeah, no, I think people like him because he's a funny character and because Tom Hiddleston is so good at playing him.
Yeah.
I personally hope that he's a villain still at the end of this,
as opposed to the hero the anti-hero or hero that he was.
I think the character works better as a villain.
Yeah.
Personally, but I don't know. I don't think that's probably how it'll be. I think you'll end up somewhere in the middle. By the time this is all over, and that's fine. It is what it is. I really like the dynamic between him and Wilson. Like I said, I like his dynamic between with the one agent played by Wenmu, whatever her name is, from Lovecraft Country. I can't remember her name in the show. Can't remember. It doesn't matter. But he's great with her. She's kind of the hard ass of the group.
Mm-hmm.
The TVA. I love their dynamic because he's really good at picking on her and needling her and stuff like that. That stuff works. And then she can just kind of rewind time on him or whatever. So that stuff's kind of fun.
Also, Gugu Mbatha Raw.
Gugu Mbatha Raw is very good too.
If you needed more.
As Renslayer, huh?
I said if you needed more incentive to watch.
Oh yeah, well, I know you have a thing for Gugu Mbatha Raw, so I'm really curious to see what happens with that character because Renslayer is not very important in the MCU, but in Marvel Comics, she has a pretty important role to play. Like she becomes like lovers to Kang the Conqueror, who's going to be played by Jonathan Majors in Ant-Man 3. So So I mean, I'm curious to see what happens here with her because I can sense some like. I don't know if she's disgruntled with the TVA, but I think the fact that they're working with Loki is something that she definitely does not believe in them doing.
Yeah, and over the course of the next episodes, you could see that push her further and further and set that up to be, part of Kang's storyline as well. Because he is, reported to be the big bad of the next phase, and I can't really imagine why you'd introduce him if he wasn't going to be. So, we'll see. Did you? I don't think we ever talked about it on here. Did you watch Jupiter's Legacy?
I watched, I think, 4 or 5 episodes of it, and then there was one episode that was so boring that I quit. I just straight quit. I was like, you know what? I'm not into it anymore.
I got close.
That show, which Netflix has now canceled after one season. Superhero series from Mark Miller. They're going to do his Super Crooks series instead for the next year. So that will hopefully be better. Although that is set in the same Jupiter's Legacy universe. But we'll see.
Well, I hope we can get some freaking resolution because we don't have to talk about it long.
You will not get any resolution.
Well, if you didn't finish the series, you should never finish it because, I think I talked about watching Deadly Class on here a few shows ago, and that ends on the biggest cliffhanger that you can imagine. But thankfully, I can just go pick up the books. I know I could do that with Jupiter's Legacy too. But Jupiter's Legacy, I made it through the whole season, and I have never watched a show where the finale episode feels like a penultimate episode. It felt like literally, all right, we're setting everything up. All the big stuff's gonna happen. Credits.
That's what The Sopranos used to do every year.
Really?
Sopranos would always have like the big thing happen the episode before the finale.
Well, yeah, Game of Thrones does that too, but that's not what Jupiter's Legacy did. They didn't have the big thing happen at all. No. They just led up to it, and then the finale was like...
Legacy shot its wad in the first episode.
Yeah,
The first episode was fantastic. And I was like, okay, I'm in. I'm in for this. And then it was like, it was all old or young Josh Duhamel walking around looking for some shit that I didn't care about, looking for a farmhouse or whatever it is he was looking for. And I was like, this is the most boring goddamn thing. I didn't sign up to watch stockbroker Josh Duhamel. Like, I didn't sign up in the 1920s. I didn't sign up for that. Like, no one wants to see that.
Right.
No one wanted to watch that. So you got Leslie Bibb on the show. I don't even want to look at her. Like, there's nothing to look at on here. What is going on? This show sucks.
Well, even when he is superhero Josh Duhamel, he's worse than Superman when it comes to being a Boy Scout. He's basically whole line and the whole thing is like, we don't kill. Well, what if they're killing other people? Well, we don't kill. Okay, well, what if they're about to kill your son? We don't kill. Dude, come on. Like, he's so unbreakable. I get they were trying to talk about it being his stance and, like, you know, him not moving when people say move. But it was just,
No, it was ridiculous, man. I couldn't find anything to get into. Like I wanted to like the daughter who was like rebellious and she was, you know, off doing her own thing, but I actually just kind of found her annoying. Yeah. And I was hoping somebody would just kill her.
Yeah, she was just a whiny brat.
You know, I didn't like that. She started doing drugs, and I thought the drugs were going to kill her, and I got excited. That didn't happen. So I didn't like the son. Like he's trying to fill his dad's shoes, but I didn't like the dad. I didn't like Josh Duhamel's character. I didn't like him. So I was like, I don't care if he fills his shoes or not. Be totally different from him.
The most intriguing character was the bad guy's son.
I couldn't get into it, man.
We never got any resolution on that.
The problem that it had was that it spent so much time explaining this backstory in the most slow and deliberate way possible.
Yeah.
That it forgot to tell an entertaining superhero story.
And the payoff for that backstory wasn't even that good. It didn't even make any sense. They go to an island.
I was never going to go somewhere that was going to be satisfying. I think that's ultimately why I was like, you know what?
I guess everything I'm saying is a long way around of saying you made the right choice. And even though I'm pissed off that I won't get any resolution on it, I'm actually kind of glad because I won't waste any more time on it.
Yeah, it's a shame because it had potential. We gave away passes to the first episode of the screening of it, and I'm sure people were really excited for it. And then if they tried to watch it, they're probably like, "Is this the same thing?"
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't very good.
That was a Great Depression. Who wants to watch that? I don't. So.
What will be good, though, is Black Panther 2, when that comes out. And one of the things that people have been waiting for literally since 2010, when did Iron Man 2 come out? Since 2010, let's call it, is the emergence of Prince Namor, the Submariner, excuse me. And it seemed, now this is, we'll preface this by saying this is still a rumor at this point, but it looks like we have cast Namor, and it looks like the Atlanteans, or AT-aliens, as Outcast would say, the Atlanteans are going to be basically Maori, which is a pretty cool thing. So they put out a you can expound on that a little bit. Maybe I'm saying it wrong, but they put out a casting call for Maori actors, right?
I believe so. I believe that's the case. Yeah. But the actor who's rumored to play him, can you say his name is Tanook?
Oh, is that why you weren't saying it? Because you wanted me to try and say his name?
Well, you have all the info in front of you. I don't.
Yeah.
So.
Tanook Huerta.
You're always the one with the info. You're the host. I mean, you're not the host, but you're the guy who runs the info and the graphics and all that kind of stuff and kind of moves the show along. So you have all the info. I don't keep it in front of me.
That guy is Tanook Huerta, who I may or may not have pronounced his name correctly. And it is rumored that he'll be taking on the role of Namor.
He's been in like Narcos Mexico. I think is like his big role was in that. He's in some other stuff too. He's in a movie I saw a few years ago called Bel Canto. I think he was one of the terrorists in that, so it wasn't really a huge role. But he's the one who's rumored to play Namor, which is interesting because Tanook Huerta is Mexican, Mexican actor. To the best of my knowledge, Namor is not Mexican. He's Atlantean, but I don't know how many Atlantean actors there are around, so I guess it's okay. But yeah, that's the rumor. And like I said, we stress that it is a rumor, and because there have been Namor and Atlantis rumors regarding Black Panther 2 for years.
Mm-hmm.
And none of them. I mean, we don't know if we can't say that none of them panned out because the movie hasn't come out yet.
Right.
But the rumors have been around for a while. So this could be just another one, or this one could be legit. And this one sounds a little bit more legit than some of the other ones.
Mm-hmm.
Why I posted it. The site that has the source has been doing okay in terms of rumors lately. So put it up and see what happens. But if it's true, introducing Namor to the MCU, it's been a long time coming. Honestly, it should have been happened. Probably.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're probably hesitant just because the parallels to Aquaman are so exact. Like, born to a human father and Atlantean mother. Aquaman is literally from Atlantis as well. I mean, but
plus there was a rights issue. There was a rights issue because someone else had the rights to Namor for quite a while.
Oh yeah, see, I missed out on that part. But I think the coolest thing is about this is what I brought up at first is that they were looking for Maori actors to fill out that the other people of Atlantis down there, because Namor, his most defining trait other than his pointy ears is that he basically looks like a little bit of a buff theater geek.
I guess that means we'll be seeing Cliff Curtis in the movie.
Yeah.
Guys like
Cameo
that.
by The Rock. But
if there's a Maori role somewhere,
well, I mean,
around it.
Let's be honest. The Maoris, whenever they're displayed or when they're doing their haka or anything like that, it's the most intimidating thing you can see. And I never really thought of the Atlanteans as intimidating previously, but it needs to. I mean, the difference between Aquaman and Namor is a bastard. Namor really wants to take down the humans. He started as a villain in the comic books. So to give them that kind of imposing, intimidating presence, I think would be pretty awesome. I mean, imagine the Atlanteans coming out of the ocean doing the haka. I mean,
a pretty awesome story would be. I mean, they've done Atlanteans versus Wakandans before in comics, but I could see a story where the Atlanteans attack Wakanda now when they're without a king, which would be very interesting. I would actually kind of love to see that. That kind of story take place.
That's the other big question is
I wouldn't be surprised if that's what they're doing, if I'm honest.
Are they going to blame the Atlanteans for the death of T'Challa? I mean, we still don't know how they're going to approach that. If they do, it'll be really hard to turn Namor into a hero afterwards, but we'll see. And elsewhere in the is the Spider-Woman story part of the MCU? That's the part I didn't get.
No, that's this is Into the Spider-Verse 2. So,
oh, right.
Issa Rae's going to play Spider-Woman in that, or voice her in that. So yeah, which is pretty cool. I mean, I like Issa Rae. They're supposed to be making a Spider-Woman live-action movie at some point over there at Sony, which I would have been cool with Issa Rae playing her in that.
Yeah.
But her voicing the character in Into the Spider-Verse 2 tells me that maybe there might be more of an emphasis on Spider-Gwen in this one. Because I feel like Jessica Drew would be like a mentor to her the same way Peter Parker was a mentor to Miles Morales. But,
well, I mean, couldn't it be into the Spider-Woman verse almost at this point, where the boys take a back seat because there's been numerous Spider-Women, yeah.
I mean, there have, but I don't know how many characters coming back for this one. Like, I feel like it's just like the core duo.
Miles and Gwen.
Miles and Spider-Gwen, Gwen Stacy. I don't know how many others are coming back. I don't think we're seeing Nicolas Cage's Spider-Man Noir coming back or anything like that.
Well, that's a travesty of cinema.
Peter Porker probably not coming back, but I don't know. So who knows? But I just thought that was cool casting news for a movie that I'm looking forward to, and I know everyone's looking forward to because the first one was awesome.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's and depending on what we get out of Spider-Man, as Spider-Man 3, it could be if we see what everybody's guessing we're going to see, we could have the Into Spider-Verse to thank for that, to really see that people would accept and enjoy seeing these multiverses collide, which will have far-reaching effects in the future of the MCU and everything like that if they really do go with it. So, it should be awesome. I'm sure we have some other things to talk about, but I just wanted to say real quick, make sure you guys are keeping an eye on the site this week, www.punchdrunkcritics.com. It is Geek Week for Netflix, where they're releasing first looks at a bunch of stuff. I know we're getting a look at Masters of the Universe Revelation here soon. We got a look at a JCPD movie.
When was that come out?
July 30th, I think.
You had to have somebody review that, not me.
I definitely will, because I am a uber geek for Kevin Smith. So, I really need to start. The only reason I don't write about the stuff that's revealed in his podcast, because I listen to all his podcasts, is because they constantly call out the sites that do it, because they're always twisting. I think comicbook.com is one of the ones that they're always talking about, where Kevin Smith and Mark Bernard will be talking, and Kevin Smith was saying, like, oh, I thought Issa Rae was good in this, and she'll be all right in Spider-Man. And then an article would come out and say, Kevin Smith says Issa Rae just okay for Into the Spider-Verse, So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, those sites, comicbook.com and those places like that, they're click sites. So, I mean, they're just like, they'll post almost anything.
Yeah, so I mean, Umbrella Academy, Cowboy Bebop. I mean, all this stuff is.
Oh, I'm excited for Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah, I'm gonna try my hand at it again. My brother-in-law's huge into that stuff, and I just never been able to.
Live action. Let me put it that way. I'm not excited to rewatch the anime again or anything. But
I've never been able to. Anime's never got its hooks to me, and I desperately want to because I feel like I'm missing out on something. Ninja Scroll was a good entrance,
but live action better. You probably just wait for that.
All right. Well, yeah. Well, so then that's what we'll do. But make sure you're checking out the site every day, every hour, every minute.
Yeah. This week's got some pretty big reviews coming up. So we got Infinite with Mark Wahlberg coming up this week. I gotta write that tonight. Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard. I'll be writing that as well. That'll be coming up soon this week as well.
Mm-hmm. You'll be writing that as long as we let you get out of here on time.
Yeah. Reviews of just reposted my review of In the Heights, so that is up right now as well. So yeah, there's a lot of good stuff coming up. Oh, the Tomorrow War, that is this week as well with Chris Pratt, and look out for interviews with him and the cast of that movie this week. So yeah.
Yep, and we got reviews already up this week for the streaming movies. We'll have one up for the amusement park this evening, which.
What the amusement park is, John?
Okay, so the amusement park is a George Romero.
Look at that face.
Dude. Imagine if Rob Zombie had a weird dream, and then he was scared of it, but only because it was so odd. That's the amusement park. It's technically a George Romero movie. It was unreleased for a very long time.
It's George Romero's almost film.
Yep. Unreleased film. And it's like if Reefer Madness and the sex ed films from the 80s had a baby, and then Rob Zombie produced it. That's kind of what we're looking at there.
Don't you mean Munsters director Rob Zombie?
The Munsters director Rob Zombie, yeah.
That bit of news that broke yesterday.
I mean, has there ever been a better match of director to subject matter?
I don't think that's a good match at all.
What do you mean? Like his visual aesthetic, like the way I imagine he lives his life, like the Munsters.
What horror comedy has Rob Zombie done? Because that's what the Munsters is.
Wait,
it's horror comedy.
His movies weren't comedy?
No.
You're telling me House of a Thousand Corpses wasn't funny?
Those movies are extremely violent and dark.
I know, but I think
aesthetic is just because he makes horror and Munsters is kind of horror doesn't mean they work.
No. It's not. It's the tone. It's the aesthetic to it. It's see Rob Zombie, and if you go to punchdrunkcritics.com and check out the news, you'll see. I'm just recapping what I said there, but he is actually a funny guy. If you listen to him on podcast interviews, and I think this entire time he's been making horror, but he doesn't know that he could actually make better horror I guarantee you this will be a great fit for him. If you look back at the videos from his White Zombie days, his music videos from there, all that, it's almost like perfect for the monsters, at least visually, and he's actually a funny guy, so I think he can make it work.
I know he's been chasing this movie for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I'm not saying he's a bad filmmaker. I don't think he is. I think he's fine for the kind of stuff he likes to do. I kind of laugh at the because you're not the only one who's done it. The automatic assumption that he's perfect for the monsters, which I don't know if his filmography tells us that. Well, that's the only thing I'm saying. It might turn out to be great.
The reason I put it there is because his sphere of influence is almost entirely 60s and 70s horror, and specifically that specific frame of time in the 60s, is where he's influenced by. So it's like it's like Tarantino doing Kill Bill or something like that. Is kind of where that comes from, at least in my mind. And the other part is it's a lazy association to make that anybody can make. Oh, the horror guy doing a horror show. That's easy to do. So, but yeah, let's wrap up and get you out of here. Get you over to your screening. The site that we've been referencing relentlessly over the last 5 minutes, www.punchdrunkcritics.com. Make sure to go there every day, bookmark our site, and check it out as much as possible for all the news, reviews, images, trailers, all that good stuff is there every day. On Twitter, follow us for all the alerts of new articles that are coming out. At PDC Movie is the site. At Punchy Critics is Travis, and I am at PunchDrunkJohn. On Twitch, Travis is at cinematic_enforcer. Make sure to subscribe there to get all the game watching time you can with Travis. But
so here's what we're gonna do. Here's what we're gonna do for Twitch, because I'm still trying to get the Twitch thing going.
Yeah.
So we need to set up our Twitch accounts together, so they have like a similar look, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have a similar thing. We can do unboxing and stuff like that, and also discussions, and also video games, and then we're going to start a group of film critics who Twitch.
All right. Well, I'm finishing Ghost of Tsushima right here. Here's the promise I'll make. I'm finishing Ghost of Tsushima right now. When I'm finished with that, I'm starting Days Gone, and I'll start my Twitch with Days Gone.
Okay, but we need to let's work together first before you do that, and like get our things kind of similar.
Right.
Also, what we're going to do is we're going to take one day a week where you and I play a different movie video game.
Friday the 13th on Nintendo is our first one. So make sure
I'm down with that.
I got to figure out how to stream a Nintendo.
As long as you can get it set up on my computer here and my stuff, and you can get it on yours, then yes. Then let's play Friday the 13th. I remember that shitty game. I'll play it.
You and your friends are dead.
We could play that. We could play Uncle Adam's Family Fester's Quest, and we'll
Fester's Quest was awesome. I forgot about that game.
We'll tear our hair out because that game was impossible too. But
it was, but
that's gonna be our Twitch thing. That's we're gonna discuss it more. But that's the thing I was thinking about. We're gonna do that.
All right, yeah, absolutely. If there's any games that you'd like to see us play once we get that started, or if you have any tips or any comments you want to make.
All your movie video game requests.
All your movie video game requests, send them to info@punchdrunkcritics.com. Thanks for tuning in with us, guys. We'll see you next week. Again, the site, punchdrunkcritics.com. Check us out there. And until next week, I'm John.
And I'm Travis.
And we are out of here.
Thanks for checking out the show. If you like what we're laying down, please subscribe to our channel and click the bell to receive notifications for all of our latest stuff.